If you need help with addiction and don't know where to go, you can call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration 24 hours a day. The number is 1-800-662-HELP or 1-800-662-4357. They work around the clock and will help you find what you need.
Hey, everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. People, as I promised you this morning, today's interview was going to be one that is kind of special, and it was a little bit nearer and dearer to my heart. As it turns out, the gentleman I am interviewing for tonight's interview here on the lifeboat is somebody that I've known for quite a long time. In fact, about as far back as I can remember, this gentleman has been in my life. It's obviously, you can see on the screen, this is my big brother. And he has agreed to come on here and tell us a little bit, the number of people on the lifeboat whose drugs of choice is alcohol. It's obviously one of the substances that there are more people, that abuse nationwide than anything else. And it's my brother's, pardon me. It was my brother's drug of choice. And he has managed to beat that, but he's agreed to come on here tonight and talk to us a little bit about that. Johnny, I can't tell you what an honor it is to have you on the boat.
I was coerced. I was blackmailed. There are techniques holding against me. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. It's interesting. Before we went live, I'm sitting here with Mark and Tommy, and Mark was, you all right, Johnny? And this is something that I think you can probably sense it. It's something that I sense somebody may benefit from, but it's something that I'm not really, really comfortable talking about. But the cause is great. So, I quit drinking. Let me start how it started. I mean, the first time I ever drank a beer. Tommy and I grew up with a bunch of uncles that were very cool, and anytime we were gathered with the family together, we would just go, hey, have a sit, and we would just make the rounds. That's how I started, for real. That's how it started. And I remember my dad and my mom were throwing a party once, and I probably was 14 or 15 years old. And there was just a ton of beer in the fridge, and enough that I could pilfer a few. And I grabbed one and went to my room. And I got 6 of them, Rolling Rock. I'll never forget it. I like an idiot. I just sat there, just chugged them, and just and I don't know. I have an addictive personality, and that was something. And the thing about alcohol is I didn't smoke weed or do anything else in high school, but I hid that. I lived a double life. You know what I mean? I really did. I was very good at flying under the radar and not getting seen, not getting noticed. Then I got to college, and I remember, boy, that's kind of where things really kind of left the main road, kind of went into the bushes. The first night, just the first night, I remember watching my mom drive away from the college. I'm like, I just immediately went to the fridge. It was just going to be a party. And I don't know why. Just being really honest with you all, I got to college with the attitude that I am going to do everything. I want to try everything. I want to experience it all. And, are the things I wish I hadn't done? I mean, there are a lot of regret I have, but I believe, I know you do, Tommy, that what you are sitting in front of that screen is a compilation of all the experiences, the heartache, the troubles, the trials, the triumphs, the victories, and the agony, the tears. If you take some of those away, you wouldn't be the guy that you are today. And the very same can be said about me. But college, you're just drinking all the time. Like I don't remember any classes I took. We've talked about this. I can remember, buck right wing, counter bootleg trap right. But you know what I mean? It's like I remember football plays from high school, but I don't remember classes because it was just where my focus was. But when I joined a fraternity house, and that was just, I remember my second, I moved into the fraternity house my sophomore year. And I remember that was just a nightmare. It was just debauchery. It really was. And I remember this.
I have a memory. I got to interject for the Landon, but I have my memory of you at the fraternity house was a 100-foot extension cord.
We won't mention the name of the fraternity.
Right. It was a 100-foot extension cord that had been run out the front door, and somebody had plugged in an alarm because you had a class that you had to get up for. But there was about 1.5 inches of snow that had actually covered you. And I remember seeing the photo of you asleep 100 yards from the front door during a snowstorm. And, living in the same state, there were so many people that went to the same college that I would catch the stories. People would say, boy, man, I heard a good one about your brother. And that was sort of a constant thing. And not to blame you at all, but I probably tried to live up to some of that a little bit. But so back to the fraternity.
In retrospect, though, I got to tell you something. It's good that you bring that up. In retrospect, I feel like most of the missteps you took is because I made it okay by taking part and doing it. The first time you ever smoked weed, I told that story on a live stream. It was the first time I ever laid hands on you and meant it. I beat the brakes off you, up the stairs, down the stairs, all over the place. Then fast forward 1.5 years, we're in my room at college smoking weed together. So I mean, Bill, you have no idea the guilt that I feel, and no matter what you say, I live with it. When someone dies, you don't get over it. You learn to live with it. Some days are better than others. That's the same way with what I feel about the example I led for you. Very happy I don't drink now, and I'm very happy the person. But I think here's one of the reasons I don't like talking about this. I think a lot of times people love like telling those stories. I don't. I've heard people tell, like, I've watched sobriety channels and watched people talk about it. I'm like, is he sober? He's talking about with great exuberance. And
right.
To me, like, listen, dude, you and I could tell, like, right? So, I mean, a testimony to me isn't the filth and the awful miles you logged on terrible roads. It's what you are now, the changes you've made to get you where you are now. That's another thing that I was thinking about. It's like, and I'll talk more about the drinking, but one of the problems that dawned on me really heavily when I started the channel, because people recognized me from different parts of my life. And it occurred to me that there are tons of versions of me out there. If you knew me in college, that was a drunk version of me, or a stoned version of me, or something else. But right now, the version, so I want to be really consistent. The more consistent you are as a human being, the less versions you have out there. The more versions you have of yourself out there, it complicates life. And you have to answer for things but the longer you're consistent doing the right thing, the less often those pop up. But getting back to college, the second semester living in the fraternity house, you remember Kai, Paul, all the craziest guys in the house. One day they said, you need to talk to you, man. And these aren't guys that have serious conversations about anything. And they pulled me into this room, and I sat down and I said, man, we're worried about you. I said, huh? They said, we're worried about you. You gotta, slow your roll. And I'm like, I remember walking out of that room. I went and got a drink, but I was thinking to myself, they're worried about me. And I remember I'd go to I'd buy a 6-pack of beer, and a 6-pack was gone. I was gonna drink that. There was no way I was not gonna drink a 6-pack. And I remember getting a 12-pack and drinking 6 and then 2 more. And you know what I mean? And it becomes something that you. And anyway, in fact, keep going. I constantly drank it. To be really honest, if I want to be brutally honest, it was probably a big part of the reasons my marriage to my kid's mom didn't work well. I drank a lot. I can make there, I think in life there's a million reasons for failure, or excuses for failure, or what's the term? There's a million reasons for failure, but only one excuse, or no? A million excuses for failure, but only one reason. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
That was the problem. And I think that I wish I could go back and undo it, but all things happen for a reason, and she's happier and I'm happier. But I knew I had a problem. I remember one day I worked for a place in Illinois for our uncle.
Yeah.
Not gonna give any more, but I went out one day, and I had a girlfriend I was dating, and we only had a few drinks. And afterwards there was a basketball game at the high school. I went there, and he looked at me and goes, "Hey, have you had a drink?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, we have an unwritten rule that we don't drink." at where we work. I said, well, when it's a written rule, let me know. That was my reaction. And I feel bad about that. That has bothered me, that I reacted to, whether it was a person but I didn't stop drinking. If I had every beer I ever emptied, I can't fathom it. So just always drinking, just not like, and not every night. It did get to the point where it was every day, but it wasn't always like that. And starting the channel, it was an interesting thing. I started the channel and I went through, I said for a long time, I said that Chase the Heat is, it's kind of a mentality. It's about running out of problem. And, Chief used to tell us, if you run from your problems, you fight tired. You know what I mean? If you run out your problem, at least you're going to fight it. And on your terms, you're fighting fresh, because you run and you think you're away from those problems. And like an invisible tether cord, they catch up to you. So I used to not preach, but I used to say, run out your problems. And I'd hang up the video, or in the middle of a video, I'd do this, and there was beer in this, there's water in this now. But, and I'd hang up I'd stop the video, and all these comments would come in, like calling me a legend and stuff. And I would sit there and I was conflicted and convicted. And I'd sit there and I just felt like such a fraud. There were times I would end a video and cry for an hour. I'm not kidding. It bothered me so much. I knew then, even at the beginning of the channel 5 years ago, I knew, man, it was a problem. And then I moved to Reno to hang out with the chief to help him, because his health was bad. And I drink beer when the beer was in the house, but I didn't want to smell like beer all the time. So I'd get vodka and drink vodka. And I hate vodka. Hate it. It's funny. And then, the channel made it more difficult, because about 2 years into the channel, a year into the channel, I get a message from some friends in the Philippines that were amazing. He said, we'll pay you to come here and pay your flight, hotel, if you'll be the guest of honor at a Pepper Festival. And this is the first time anything like this had happened. And I went, I don't tap dance and sing. I don't know, I don't do anything. What do you expect of me? I felt weird about it. He said, are you Johnny Scoville? I said, well, yeah. He said, would you show up and be Johnny Scoville? That's all we asked. So I got there, and every event I'd ever go to, I'd go and try to buy a beer, and they wouldn't let me. They would just I'm not even making this up. I bet 20 times in the last 2 years, or not now, the last 2 years I was sober, but in the 2 years I was drinking, doing the channel, at least 20 times, people would say to me, your money is no good here. And these are events where there are vendors selling alcohol that have nothing to do with me. They don't know me. And I'd be at an event, like in the Philippines, a guy would come up and hand me a Bloody Mary at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're setting up, cheers. And I drink a Bloody Mary. And I go get another one, and they wouldn't take my money. And it was just, I didn't have a boss. And it became very, very easy. I'm not a rock star. I'm a chili head. And it was a problem. And I drank a lot, kept it in check a lot in the Philippines. Didn't drink around, here's the other weird thing. I never really got out of control. Rarely did I ever get out of control.
I could probably challenge that one briefly.
You and I have gotten into 2 swing outs.
Yeah.
Like men fighting men that were scary and frightening, and both
July 6th. Got into one that not only did we beat the hell out of each other, but we destroyed a car.
Yeah.
Punched the windows out of it.
There were 3 then, because we also did about
that's the other one.
The school.
Yeah.
But it's a horrible thing. So anyway, I got back from the Philippines, and then Australia said, hey, come up, we'll do the same, come to Australia. So I was like, went to Australia, and I bet, now let me tell you something, in Australia, a case of beer is $60. No joke. It's super expensive. If you go to a bottle store, they call it a bottle store. In Massachusetts, call it Packy. Okay, but they call it a bottle store in Australia. Little bottle store. I took a picture of this, the trip over there. I'm sure they were going after tourists, but 16-ounce bottles or cans, a 4-pack was $50.
Good Lord.
I'll tell you the truth. A pack of cigarettes then, I don't smoke, but a pack of cigarettes then, somebody on the trip who smoked, it was $36 then for a pack of cigarettes. Now, today, it's $50. I bet you I drank $2,000 worth of beer on that trip, and I was there a week. I was just always drinking. And here's the problem. Who's guilty? We can't see hands, but if you've been on vacation, man, you have a Bloody Mary on vacation. It's vacation. You have a mimosa on vacation. Well, I kind of quit my job and did the channel full time, and it was a vacation. It was just all the time. And then New Zealand, or I went to New Zealand. Actually, no, I got sober after the Australia trip. I went to New Zealand sober. But I mean, here's one thing that's important. I remember, I don't know if this is still something you subscribe to, Tommy, but I remember a long time ago you saying to me, people don't quit with a vice, drinking or smoking, whatever, until they've done enough. And I think I got to a point where I'd done enough. But to be very honest with you, there's an app I have on my phone. A lot of people have it. Millions of people have it. My app I use is called I Am Sober. It is, I don't know if you guys can see that. It should catch up, maybe not. It's too dark, too light. It's 2 years, 6 months, 16 days. But I was 7 days. I remember downloading the app. Thank you. I remember downloading the app and like 2 days later, something would happen. I'd drink. I get so angry. I would delete the app. I'd get mad as could be. I didn't want to look at it on my phone. I'd feel this big. I felt awful buying it. I felt terrible drinking it. I felt horrible. It still went on for a while. And one day I was like, that's it. I couldn't do it anymore. I knew my mom and dad knew I was drinking, and they were probably being chill about it. They didn't want to confront me. And it just I didn't want to do it anymore. I woke up and it was like, I don't know. I just had a paradigm shift. I woke up and I had a friend I was talking to at the time, and I called him and I said, can you imagine? I'll ask you the same question, Tom. Can you imagine a day where I let a man control me and tell me what to do and you get away with it? But I'll let a liquid in a glass that's got no mind, no conscience, no IQ, no brain cells, no thought, no. I'll let that control me? Nah. I said, I'm not going to drink again. And they
what was amazing about that day too is I don't know if you remember this, but I called you from prison, and I was calling to tell you that I thought you had a problem, because there was been a couple of times when you're in prison, you don't get the phone every day. You don't just go make a phone call. It becomes a difficult thing to time when you can get a hold of somebody. But the previous 6 times that I talked to you, I mean, the world might not know, but I knew you. And I'd say, boy, you have a couple today? You're like, I just had a couple of beers, just whatever. So I was calling to tell you that I thought you needed to get it under control. It was crazy because I you answered the phone, and people, if you've never had someone call you from a federal prison, every 4.5 seconds, a recorded voice comes on and says, this call is from a federal prison, right? You're talking to an inmate at a federal prison. So as soon as that voice had gone away, I said, hey, Johnny, listen, there's something I want to talk to you about. You're like, yeah, let me go first. I think I got a drinking problem, man. I'm done. I swear to you, I'm never drinking again. And you were like, what do you want to talk about? Nothing, I'm good. Sort of took that one off the table.
The weird thing is, 2 times before that, I had downloaded the app, failed and deleted the app 2 times. Something was different this time.
People do that with the channel. I was fired
up. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm fired up. I was fired up that day about sobriety, and I can't begin. I'm no less excited about my sobriety now than I was that day. I was stoked. I was like, I remember looking at that going, a day. I was bummed out that it was only a day, but I was like, and here's the part that I struggle with as far as telling my story. I think whatever a person has to do to get sober, you got to do it. I don't care what it is. Whatever you got to do to get sober, you got to move away from somebody that's causing you grief, that's helping you, that's your fault. You get away from that. If you got to change friends, change environment, move to a different country, you got to do what you got to do to stay sober, because you end up dead or in jail. That's it. And you ruin lives, and you ruin your own. If you have 1 million lives to live, hey, waste one drinking. You don't. You get one. You know what I mean? And I don't know where I was going with that.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing, that happens to me a lot less now.
I know where you were going with it. If you want help because of how long I've known you, I can tell you where you were going with that.
Where was I going?
You were going to talk about the fact that when people talk about their sobriety, they have the the wrestling and everything else, and that really isn't your story.
Oh yeah, it's been too easy. I've never. My dad died at the end of February. I didn't. You were so cool how you handled it. I love you for that, bro. You were amazing. But I mean, I never. Even when my dad died, I never had that like, oh crap, I want to drink something. I've never, not one time in the 2 years, 6 months, and 16 days have I had a moment where I was like, oh, just love it. Not once. And I've said this to you. If I knew that at midnight tonight, an asteroid was hitting the earth and we were all toast, I'm going out sober. I don't drink. I don't want to drink. And here's the other weird thing that's happened. God, I don't know if I ever shared this with you. This is one of the strangest things that's happened. Hasn't happened. It happened to me for the first year that I was sober. I still like being around people that have fun. I don't have a problem with people that drink. I like being around people that are having a good time. But the second, and I mean, if somebody has this much, I don't even care if they're with my group. Somebody over there with a different group has this much, I can tell, I can feel. I'm like, I got to get away from that person. I can't be around them. But one thing that happened to me in the first year is I would be around people that were drinking. And I'd start feeling buzzed, stone sober, nothing in my system. I'd start feeling loopy. I'm not making that up. And I was talking to somebody about it, and they said, no, man, that's your brain. It's so strong. It said, if you are going to have one, we're going to feel it anyway. It was trippy. But, I think the attitude that you have with your sobriety is a big part of how well you're going to do in your sobriety. I know a guy for 5 years now who's an angry sober guy.
Yeah, he's a dry drunk.
I went to dinner with him once. I was drinking then. This is 5 years ago, probably. I went to dinner with him and I ordered a beer. And he goes, I'll have a Jack and Coke. Hold the Jack. That's how every time I've ever been with him, that's how he orders. And every time I talk with him, the subject of not his sobriety or mine, somebody else's sobriety comes up. And I'm like, it's gotten to the point where I don't want to talk to that dude. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm thrilled with my sobriety. I don't ever crave it. I would never trade it. I'm stoked about, I know somebody told me that, who was it? I don't know who it was. Told me that they have a friend who's been sober for years. And they said that they get sober for the coins. That's literally why they do it, for those coins. And I remember hearing that. And then this person told me that one night after being sober for 6 years, she decided she was going to drink around a bunch of friends that knows that she doesn't. And they're all like, oh, and she's like, I'm okay, I'm fine. And she did. She had a drink. And it's like, it's devastating to me. But and it's like, for those coins, the way I approach this daily ticker, every day is a coin. And when the day I hit that, downloaded it again, every first day, every hour was a coin for me. Yeah. But I mean, not that I was craving it, but I was just excited about it. And this app is really cool. It tells you how much money you saved. I don't buy that either because.
Does it say $260,000?
No, let me tell you the amount. You should know. I'll show you. Yeah, I wonder if you can see it. It's a darker screen, so I may be able to see if I blow it up. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, $7,440 I've saved in 2.5 years.
Whatever. What are you kidding me?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like that didn't, and I was being honest. How much do you spend? I was being wickedly honest. But that didn't account for when I went to Australia and drank, so much it was absurd. But I think one reason that people have trouble quitting, I'm a Christian. I think some people don't want to be a Christian because of what they fear they have to give up to be a Christian. I have a very fulfilled, happy life. I have more fun and happiness by accident than most people have on purpose. I think a lot of people, the same thing with alcohol. They think they're going to lose something. Alcohol is a liar. It's a vicious, evil liar. It's a deceptive, awful thing because it'll convince you that the great times you had were because of the booze you were drinking. And the truth is, it had nothing to do with that. It was the people that you were with.
Well, you know something? One of the phenomenons, we talked about this the other night on the channel, is that, the chief used to say words mean things, right? Well, what do we say? When someone talks about when they were doing drugs or when they were doing alcohol, they'd say, back when I partied, right? For all those years that I was partying, it's not partying. But, we ascribe all of this for so long. It's like you were saying, when you first started to quit, you'd be around someone and start feeling buzzed. We talk about it all the time on the channel, but there are two components to addiction. And the first one is whatever's in the bottle. And that's going to get you a buzz and everything else. Well, the second is the reward center of your brain does something when you crack the first one. Because when that stuff hits your lips, so good when it hits your lips. No, when it first hits your lips, people already start to feel better, right? Which doesn't make any sense because the alcohol is not going to do anything to you for about 15 minutes. But you can watch an alcoholic go from shaking to fine just holding it because the reward center already goes, all right, we're cool. And it starts to release these feel-good chemicals. Well, when people first quit, the brain is going, if I release enough of those feel good chemicals, he's going to go, oh, I remember what this was like, and literally crack that first one. And it, I bet it feels really strange the first time it happens to somebody, but it is not unusual. I mean, you hear it from
It was
people
so weird
all
for
the
me.
time. Your brain starts to take over.
Yeah, I had a friend who said once, when you're an alcoholic, after the first drink, it's the next drink, then drinks the next drink.
Yeah.
But I'm so much happier now. I mean, I really, really am. I'm not just saying that. And I think
No, I can attest to that.
another thing is this. I feel like one of the, I went through this long period. I'm 2.5 years sober now. I went through a stretch where I just felt this big for the lost opportunity of what I could have maybe accomplished if I hadn't done all the things I had done. If I didn't drink and I just like, you know what I mean? Like what is my potential? But then you got to kind of be happy with where you're going. And I'm kind of happy with where I'm going.
One of the things we also talk about is there's a reason that the rear view mirror is this big, right? And there's a reason that you got that big, windshield in the front, because the guilt that people live with from their past. One of the reasons that it's important to do what you're doing right now, because this sucks. I admit that. It gets a lot easier if you do it every day, but it still sucks. And I relive my addiction every single day here. But in doing so, when you own your past and you can get a handle on that guilt, I promise you the emotion that drives more addicts back to using than any other emotion is guilt. And just like you were talking about, it's not just guilt of, all right, maybe I screwed up a couple of marriages, because I did, right? My drug of choice definitely screwed up a few marriages. And in the process, I screwed up the lives of my kids. And that's, those are, and then you throw in the potential of what could I have been if I wasn't doing it? If you don't own that and take care of that right as you're getting sober, then when it does kick in 2 years down the road, you go, I can't live with this. This is why when people go to normal rehabs, first thing they do is say, let's blame this on your parents, right? That's not how they say it, but they say, let's talk about your childhood, right? And it doesn't matter what you say, because they're trying to get the highest number of people that don't relapse. That's their job. That's how they get paid. That's how they get new clients. So if you say, yeah, I remember my youth, in a fourth grade party, I stubbed my toe so badly I had to go to the hospital, and that's what did it. Your father, had he been there to make sure you didn't stub your toe, because if you can put all of this onto somebody else, then you can alleviate the guilt, but it's a lie. And those people eventually come to grips with the fact that, you know what? You know why I was an alcoholic? Because it's my fault. And when that finally kicks in, this is the great, alcohol or drugs or whatever is the great equalizer for getting rid of that guilt faster than anything. But the way to do it is to own it and take care of it.
I think I was a child until I was 30. I think becoming a
30?
Start because really owning, that's a big part of it, owning stuff, and
you eat peppers for a living. You mean you were a child for 30?
Listen, it's funny though. I had something I want to share this with you. I had been sober for about 7 days, and the New York Hot Sauce Expo came up. Now, the previous year, I was at the New York City Hot Sauce Expo. I can tell you some of the funniest stories. I mean, I won't. Anyway, I go to I'm sober the second year, and I walk up to, and it was interesting. I think drinking at a big event did make it easier, because me, honest to God, I really did spend most of my life trying not to get noticed, unless I was on a court or on a field. I didn't want to get noticed. For me, I wasn't there. You know what I mean? And to walk into an event where there's 10,000 people and like all of them seem to know you, and no matter where you look, everybody gives you a look like they know you and they want to say something to you. And drinking kind of made that a little bit easier. So sobering up and going to an event and having that was a trip. But I was visiting, I saw a guy in New York. I won't say his name, but I told him, I knew he had been sober because he's very public and very cool about it. And I came up to him, I showed him the app. I said, 7 days, baby. And he said, hey, congratulations. He was very, very positive about it. And he said to me, told me he was 33 years sober.
Wow.
No, right? 33 years. And he said something that I'll never forget. It was such a poignant, man, I can remember where I was standing, the way the air felt. He said, today, my 24 hours is the exact same as your 24 hours, whether you have 7 days clean or 33. We're both facing the same 24 hours. And that was really neat. I love that. And I right after that, this guy walked up and said, Johnny, so good to see you again. I was like, I don't think we met. He pulled his phone out and showed me pictures of me and him from the previous New York Hot Sauce Expo. I was like, and I wasn't mulatto. I just didn't remember the picture. Part of it is because like when I go to an event like that, I get my picture taken with 1,000 people, but it was just weird. And I'm just a far happier guy not drinking.
Well, and one of the things that that I talk about a lot, I know that you and I have discussed it too. When they did the old commercials back in the 80s with the rat that just kept hitting the feeder bar until it fell over on its side and did the kibber. There was a guy that then did the same experiment, but he built this rat utopia. And in there, he had wheels to run on, and he had cool little colored balls that they could chase around, and puzzles to do, and things to walk through. And they put tons of female rats in there, so they had people to hang out with. And then they had 3 different feeder bars, and one of them had the drug in it, and the other 2 were normal. And none of them overdosed, never happened. And about 3% of them would continue to go back and grab a little bit of the drug every now and then, but then would just, seem to do what they were doing. And, what sort of came out of that is a philosophy that's kind of new to the whole sobriety thing, that the opposite of using isn't necessarily sobriety, right? The opposite of addiction is connection. And as an addict, the thing, what you connect with is the bottle. And so oftentimes the alcoholic goes and drinks alone because, you don't want the world knowing that, so if there's somebody there, great, I'll have a couple of drinks. But as soon as you leave, you're going to pound the rest of them because you're going to get to that point. And as a drug addict, I was doing smack or whatever. I'm certainly not doing it with a ton of people because I don't want them doing my stash. And it was important enough that I had to have it. I couldn't really afford to be taking care of people. And it's not a social thing. But with you, as opposed to a lot of people who quit and have to rebuild their life, you already had one. So when you quit, you had videos to make, you had things to do on the road, you had a brand new girlfriend in another country, and all of these things, these points of connection that I'm always talking about. The more you can create new memories, the more you push out the old ones. If you don't create new memories, what happens is all of that crap that you did, remember when you first quit and every memory you had looked like this? Right?
Yeah.
Every memory you had something to do with booze. Well, every memory I had something to do with drugs. So it becomes so important to create new ones and get more points of contact.
I often wonder, and I'm not sure if I should say this, I don't know how much where I was at the moment that I quit helped me stay sober. Because really, honestly, I feel like I would live a dream every day. It's like everything was going right. I got Netflix talking to me. All these amazing things were happening. There were so many amazing things that really, what if I didn't have my channel? I was homeless, or I was struggling with a job, and I had a lousy roommate. I don't know if I would have had the same. I'm be honest. I don't know if I would have had the same results, maybe just because things were going swimmingly for me. I don't know.
Well, it's a good point. It really is. And it's something that you can think about it ad nauseum and it's not going to help. But for people who are just getting sober, I think, the takeaway is that when I say points of contact, we say it all the time, but if you hang out with the same people, you go to the same places, you do the exact same things, right? You're living in Killington, Vermont, and you're going up to the mountain and you're hanging at the Wobbly on Friday, but this night you're not going to drink. There's no chance in hell that's going to work. It might work for 2 weekends, but it's not going to work. And it's a cliche, but if you do the same things over and over again and you think this time it's going to be different, right? That's insanity. If you do the same thing time and time again, but you think the result is going to be different, that literally is insanity. So when I say new points of contact, get a new job. And people say, well, I want to lose the job that I had. Your life is the other option, right? You could lose your life, or you could go find a new place to work, but it requires new friends. If you knew how many times each week somebody from the channel will say to me, well, I'm not going to turn my back on my friends just because I got sober. Well, then don't worry about it. You're going to get high. If you got 3 people and you're the 4th and you're the only cat in that group that doesn't get high, if you think you're going to get the other 3 sober before they get you high, you're delusional. Right? Lifting 3 people up is not really the norm. Those 3 people dragging 1 cat down, that is the norm. So I think with you, there were always new people in your life every single day. It's something that I experience now that I'm on a YouTube channel, is that my sphere of influence in terms of people I know doubles about every 9 to 10 days. And all of these new people that you meet, I'm not hanging out with the same people that I was hanging out with. I'm not at the same places. I'm not doing any of the same things. And if you're not creating new points of contact, then you're just going back and doing exactly what you did. I remember the first time we talked about this and you said, it just seemed easy for me. Look, idle time is the devil's workshop, right? You've heard that. If you got nothing but time on your hands, you sit and ruminate, right? You just sit and think about booze, and you think about, if you got something to do, the next thing you know, it's the end of the day, you're getting into bed, and the day is behind you. It's not how it works. Most people don't structure their life in such a way. So work out. In prison, they call it programming. If a guy stays sober in prison, they'll say, are you on a good program? And what he means is, are you working out during the day? Do you head down to the library? Do you get you a little bit of reading in? Then you go outside, you do a little walking and get some fresh air. But if you structure your day so that there's always something going on. I remember, I was getting out while you were in your, the sort of the early days of your sobriety. And every time I called you, you'd be like, I can't talk. I'm doing this, this, and this. No, I can't talk right now. I'm doing this, this, and this. And there was not a time during the day. I mean, for not being the president, you're one of the busiest cats that I've ever met. And I think that probably goes a long way. And it's a great example to anybody listening. Don't have downtime. Structure your life without it.
Yeah, I think that's important. And the funny thing is, I was kidding myself thinking that I was fooling everybody is the other thing. Let me tell you something interesting. True story. I'm telling you the truth. On my 90-day mark, I had 90 days sober. I got a comment on one of my videos. I swear to you, it said, I don't know what you've been doing, but for the last 3 months, the content has been amazing. I was just like, I read it, was just like, it was exactly on the 90-day. And he said 3 months. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow.
Oh, it's definitely a better product. You can see, are you able to see Mark on the screen?
I am.
He's doing the bobblehead routine because he's been with your channel since year one. And he and I have had this discussion, and for someone that had been there from the beginning, the product changed, and I'm not saying that you were hammered every time you were on doing a video, but there were a few that was pretty obvious. And there were some where you weren't quite sharp. You might not have been, slurring your speech or doing anything else, but you weren't.
Oh, I wasn't one
strong in terms of whatever you were doing at that time, but I think that, and this goes for a lot of people, we all tend to think that we've got people snowed. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the air, but I went and saw a counselor. I had to change drug counselors, and they sent me back to the one that I had seen when I was married to the previous girl that I was with. And when I walked in, his response was, boy, if I didn't know it was you, I wouldn't have believed it. Now, to me, I thought I had everybody pretty well snowed. You know what I mean? Like, I was definitely using, when I saw him the last time, I said, well, I wasn't. He goes, oh, come on, man. Like, it was painfully obvious to him and probably everybody else around me. And that's something else that, as addicts, your brain takes over, right? We're good. No one knows. No one knows you're good. You're good. Right? Because they want to keep it going. If you start really looking at yourself, you might quit.
See, I think people say how hard it was to stop drinking. I got to be honest with you. To me, it was so hard to drink. It was so easy to stop drinking because there were so many complications with drinking. It's hard to drink. There's so many things that would pop up. Sometimes you knew they were coming. Sometimes you didn't see them coming. But when I'd stop drinking, instantly freed of all that. It's easier not to drink. I don't know. To me, it is.
No, I think that you're not the only person that has said that in the course of their life, because it really is. This is something that I experienced too. It's a full-time job. I mean, you look, you weren't in the life, but your brother was. I mean, you watched how I was living. And I mean, I got up in the morning and it's like the gazelle that they always talk about in that, you get up in the morning and you better start running because there's a cat that's going to eat you before the end of the day. If you're an addict, the dealer's going to close at 7, right? They stop selling dope at 7 o'clock. And when it gets dark outside, they're not delivering anymore. And that was my life. Like, I had to get up and start running and stealing and doing whatever I had to do, because when 7 o'clock rolled around and they shut this down, if I wasn't set, if I didn't have my fix, I had a nightmare of a time until the sun came up the following day and I had to start running again. And it was a much more difficult life. It really was but I think one of the things, and I'm glad you said this because it brings up a point. I had somebody say once, and it really floored me. We were in a group meeting and a guy said, the one thing that really kept me in the game was the simplicity. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're either wasted or you need to get wasted. He said, everybody else in the world has all of these things that they need to think about. And the addict has two things to think about. Am I high? How am I going to get high? Like, that's the only two things. And it's terrifying because I woke up and 15 years was gone. You know, and I think that if, Johnny, we got a ton of people listening right now, watching this, who are high. And we don't bust on anybody for that. If you watch this channel and you get high, that's all good. But what we hope is that they're going to hear something that makes them want to, you know, take a good hard look at where they're at. And we've had people who say, I watched for 2 months and then quit. And that's the dream, right? That's what we're looking for. But yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, you said, I think all of the lost potential. If you're hearing anything today, just know that it's like that song by Pink Floyd, you know, the next thing you know, 10 years has gone by, you know, and you didn't get nobody told you when to run. If you don't quit today, you're going to be having the same conversation with yourself in 6 years. And the only thing different is going to be more wrinkles in the mirror. You know, it's a frightening concept. It really is.
See, and one thing I think about all the time is, like, if I ever got to the point where I thought I was going to drink and I felt troubled, I'd probably call you. But I would look at these days, all those days that I earned. The idea of, I knew if I did drink, I knew that I'd feel like crap in 2 days. I'd download the app again. To start over again and lose 2 years, 2 years, 16 months or 6 months.
We have followers here that treat the channel much like that app. Like, they come here and they get really excited and they're ready to, you know, they're going to take on the world and they hit every video.
Did I tell you that was going to happen?
You don't see them in the comment section for a while.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't we talk about that? Because I said to you, what's going to happen is people are watching, get super fired up. They're going to drink and go, not tonight. Yep. You know why? In a big way, this channel, your channel is like a mirror. You have sobriety is like forcing a mirror in front of you. And you got to, you know, but, you know, you get to the point where you don't want to lie to yourself. You get to the point, like, I used to lie to myself a lot. I don't lie to anybody about anything. Pretty freeing.
Okay, well, good. As long as we're making sure that you don't lie about anything. You did make a comment earlier that said you weren't really one of those guys that got out of control. We were living on a boat at the time. You may remember this incident. And you said, I'm heading into Houston tonight. I'm thinking of going in and partying. And I said, what?
Don't get arrested. Don't go to jail.
I said, look, just go have a good time. But, you know, you tend to get rowdy. Don't get arrested and don't go to jail. And then I went on the boat and I think I took out the boat that night. I went sailing and you didn't come back. I went and when you did, you were missing a shoe and you had a very large black circle under your left eye. And I looked at you. People, I wish you could have seen it because I was more dad than little brother. I went, what did I say? 2 things. What did I say?
What did I tell you? I told you 2 things. Tell me what I said. I was like, I'm sorry. We got to get arrested.
So every once in a while, you might have gotten slightly out of control. So, but no, truthfully, you were one of those guys that, you know, you weren't out getting DWIs and you weren't out getting arrested for being in fights or anything else. It was just very consistent drinking. And I think for a lot of people, you know, the term functioning addict, there are so many people who believe that. I was talking to somebody who's sober and has been their entire life the other day. And they said to me, I think so-and-so has the potential to develop a drinking problem. And I said, are you kidding me? This person has a drinking problem. But by their standards, he goes to work every day. You know what I mean? His kids are taken care of. He's got a nice house. He's got a boat. He's got an RV. You know, this guy's in good shape. But the truth of the matter is, if you're drinking every single day, like you said, if that liquid in that can has control of you and is telling you what to do, then, you know, it's easy to say, you know, I'm not in any trouble. I don't get arrested. But the question is, you know, can you live without this stuff? Is it telling you what to do?
Well, it's like every vampire movie, you know, you bite you on the neck. The next morning you wake up and you got to bite somebody in the neck. And when you're you wake up, you got to go bite somebody in the neck. You got to get, that's how it works, you know? And then,
yeah.
But here's the truth of it: letting go of that and beating it and having the confidence. I don't know. you're living. It's like, that's why I had a conversation. I have people, I have heard the expression sober existence. That to me sounds like a day in the dentist's office, a sober existence. I don't want to exist anywhere. That sucks. I rage. I'm sober raging, man. I'm like, I'm lucky. I'm very, very fortunate that my life is the way it is. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm living a dream, but I mean,
Luck.
I never feel like I'm missing out ever.
Well, luck is the residue of design. If you set yourself up, right? And it's like you said earlier, there are guys that do this number right here. I'm not drinking today, and they'll get through, 4 or 5 years like that. And I catch flack every single time I say this on the show, but I'm going to do it again. If that's how you're living, buy yourself a 6-pack, because
Right.
at least the alcoholic is happy for a couple of hours a day. The trick to what we do and what we try to tell people here is that if you handle this and you look and you own your past, and then you go somewhere where you can celebrate your victories, own your past and celebrate your victories. When you said, man, your first 7 days, you were excited. We got a great guy on this channel who has basically agreed to get sober with all of us watching, right? He had 17 years addicted to meth, and every day, never thought once quitting. And he finally watched the channel for a few months and said, I'm going to quit. His name is Joe Birdwell. He's just a stud. But he said to me when I did the interview like this, he said, I got 7 days. I know that doesn't seem like much to you. I said, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's when we pull this one out. Are you kidding? 7 days after 17 years? I think that's another great point, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is because there are people, when you have a channel or you have a room full of people and a guy says, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm 25 years sober, and you've got 4 days, you feel like, oh man, I am never going to get there. 4 days is more impressive, because once you get past that point, I mean, it's all downhill, and it does get easier, but for those of you fighting the good fight and you've got 6 days, man, jump up and pump your fist in the air, get fired up, because that's really what it's all about, is getting through it. That's the tough part for most people. That is really where it's tough. Alan Ballantyne, one of my favorite people. Alan, congratulations, man. That is a year and a half. I'm not a mathematician. Johnny, am I right on this one? 18 months. That is a year and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we sure? A year and a half is a long time. That is awesome. And I'll tell you something, when you get to the point where you're counting in years, Alan's a great guy too. We email each other every day. He's an Aussie. But just one of the all-time great people, Alan, I'm so proud of you, brother. And he's one of those guys that doesn't celebrate his victories enough. So I'm glad that he brought that here. It's if there's one thing I could say about Alan, is he needs to celebrate his victories a little more. I think he's still carrying around a little of the guilt from the past, but not only that, Johnny, but the man has lost like a human being in body size, and he got his A1C down to where they're no longer calling him a diabetic. Like, what he has done since he quit is a miracle. Yeah, exactly. And
what it sounds like.
They happen here on the boat every day. I'm not trying to, it's them, not me, but they happen every single day. This is a forum where miracles happen, which is pretty damn cool. It really is. It's a cool forum. I can't thank you enough for coming on here and doing this. People, the first time I asked him, he said, boy, I'd be happy to do this, and jumped right on. That didn't happen. I've been twisting his arm for the better part of 2 months to come on here and do this interview. No, I really haven't, but I did have to do a little arm twisting. I'm really glad that you did. And I know it's not your comfort zone, but the beautiful thing about what you do is that there's like it or not, you're a legend, bro. So when you come on, I'm sorry, people, I do that because he hates it. But no, like it or not, you're very well known, especially within the Pepper community. And you have accidentally spawned so many people who got sober just because you were very vocal about what you did. So when you come onto a channel like this one, where it's all we talk about, you have a big following on the boat. There are a lot of people that, when I go to open question and answer, where I allow them to ask anything, inevitably, I will get some Johnny Scoville questions, so it's a big deal that you agreed to come on here and do that. If you're glancing down now, you're going to see a lot of names of people that I see you I see you trying to see who's.
No, I don't have. I can't.
Oh,
see
good.
comments at all.
There's a bunch of people in the comment section. It's just great that you took the time to come on here and do this. Now, this is the part of every one of the shows where we let the bobblehead come on here and tell us all of the cool things that have been happening because I don't do this anymore either. If I start reading the comment section, I have the squirrel effect, and right in the middle of what I'm doing, I'm like squirrel, and it's just it's all over. I can't do anything.
I've noticed it before. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, Mark, what's happening, my man? Is anything cool going on?
Well, we had Joe came in with a super chat, so thank you, Joe, on that one.
Joe, I appreciate you, my brother. That's what we were talking about, Johnny. Joe Birdwell.
Yep.
Hi, Joe.
It's good to see a lot of people in here. I recognize a lot of names, and for my part, I've obviously I never would have even been here if it hadn't been for Chase the Heat. So it's one of those things, and this is kind of a weird thing to say, but it's like you guys remember Amway? How
yes.
the teared down tree model for business, that kind of a thing. It's kind of like that. It really is. And there's a movie out there called Pay It Forward too. A lot of people who have seen that. If you have never seen that movie, you're doing yourself a disservice, because if people would just actually do that, my gosh, this world would be such a better place. But we do that, and that's why this is all working like it is. So, and everybody here, it's just been like a combination of, well, at the beginning it was like a combination of our 3 channels, really. That's what it was. And now everybody knows each other, and we support each other. No matter where you're at, whatever channel you're at, you can see it. And it's a great thing.
You may think the Amway reference is crazy, Mark, but believe it or not, my brother and I have had this conversation once before. There are certain elements that are kind of, similar to that whole thing, because you build relationships, and especially when it's hard to find positive stuff out there. It really is. But these are 3 channels right here that you ain't got to worry about. You could plop your kid down don't in front of mine, but certainly you're not going to, you know what I'm saying?
Hang on, just a second.
Yeah, for the love of everything good, let me back that up. But you know what I'm saying? You're not going to run into a lot of negativity, I guess, is where we were going with that.
And I find, and I think you guys find this too, those kinds of people gravitate towards each other. We will find each other.
Here's the thing, when you're a really positive person, you tend to repel negative people. Like, negative people hate me. They do. They hate me. Positive people, I tend to attract them and pull them in my life. That's a beautiful thing, because I want positive people in my life. And
yeah, exactly. And our biggest weapon is love, and that against all of it. Doesn't matter what it is. If you show it love, I don't care what it is, it stops. It has to. It can't beat it. It's impossible.
Well, light and dark can't occupy the same space. Light always wins.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, we had, like I said, Alan came in there with that. Joe, I think he's 24 or 25 days now, I believe. That's awesome. That in itself is amazing, to be on a methamphetamine for 17 years, and to be, and I have to say, I feel really, really honored, and just that he's here, and he credits all of us for helping him with that. That's such a great thing. And Tommy explains it like that's a natural, immediate dopamine release for everybody that was a part of that.
No question.
I heard Tommy say something once really important. I don't mean to interrupt you, Mark, but he said that when you're invested in other people's sobriety and other people's well-being, there is such a positive thing about that. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So that's the epitome of being a community, is it not?
Yes,
absolutely,
exactly. And like he said too, I think he said at the same time, not everybody can do that, especially at first. Okay, we all get that. You know what I mean? But when you're where nobody's saying you need to go, where you used to go and do the whole, the scene you used to visit. Nobody's saying you need to do that. But if you're helping other people that you didn't even know, you're not, that's a new thing. And I say it a lot, you got to replace your memories. And when you do that, your brain does rewire itself. It does. That is an actual biological thing that happens. It creates new neural pathways, and it starts connecting in different ways. And it takes time. I'm not going to lie. I'm 10 years in recovery, and I'm just now getting to the point where I can actually belly laugh at stuff.
What's funny? I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's funny you say that because like day one, I drank that before, but I didn't wake up drunk. So I was sober day one. I got to tell you, I was more sober on day two. I was more sober on the 7th month than I was the 6th month. It took a while. I mean, it's a process, and you start thinking differently, and everything you do differently. It's interesting.
And I struggle like with getting together with family because I could not, especially when I first got clean or sober, however you want to put it. That's just semantics in my opinion. But anyway, when I would do like go to family get-togethers or stuff like that, I could not remember a time where I wasn't high. So I had to recreate that by remembering that again. And I will say this: once I got so far out and was doing that over and over and over again, because you almost got to force yourself to do it at first. You gotta assert yourself in there, and it's hard. But once you do that, you start to remember what it was like before, and you remember how good it was before.
Well, muscle has memory.
Yeah.
Obviously, up here it's stronger.
Yeah, and that was one thing I really struggled with for a very long time, and I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I still do. Especially like the bigger get-togethers, the bigger gatherings. It's like, oh man, I used to just go throw some pills down my mouth, and then I became the life of the party because I just simply didn't care. Instantaneous happiness, but that only lasts. You touched on it a minute ago, Johnny, about chasing that stuff. You're telling them chase the heat. Well, I was chasing the opie. I mean, that's really what it was. As soon as I would, throw those pills down my mouth, I was immediately thinking, how am I going to get the next one? So you can't even though you were getting high, you couldn't even enjoy it. It simply became trying not to be sick. Yeah, it completely controlled you.
Sobriety is a crazy thing. The only way to really hold on to it and do it right is to give it away. And I think it's what brought the three of us together. And it also is what brought, the 1,700 and however many people were up to that came together to, to be on this boat. Yeah. It really is. It's a place where everybody's giving it away. And that's a pretty beautiful thing.
I go to a recovery center because I'm still in Suboxone, and it's called groups, and they call it groups for a reason because it is group. That's what they focus on. They don't focus on the medication itself. Yes, you get that there, but they don't require you to take it to be there. And they don't force you to come down at any certain rate, but they also won't push it on you. So they call it groups for a reason. Like I said, it's a new way of looking at addiction and recovery. And I got lucky enough that that's here where I'm living.
Thank God.
And it really, because I switched like a year ago from the place I was at. And I'm talking, that other place I was at, they looked at you like you were a criminal. You weren't nothing but a number. I still remember my number, RX4350. That is internally embedded in my head. I wasn't Mark out there, ever. I was a number. Yeah. And and what you're going to get when you come to the lifeboat, you're not even going to get a number. You're going to get a name. You're going to get some stripes eventually. And we're going to throw you a mop till you go swab the deck. But it's just what it is. And that really, in my opinion, that works more than anything. That group environment, that we
about connection.
Yeah, we've done that here online, unintentionally almost.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's just really worked that way, and I can't say how happy I am that I'm a part of any of this. And it's like Tommy says a lot. It really is the viewers. It really is the subscribers. I don't even like calling them subscribers. It's more of a family and friend thing.
They're the crew.
Yeah, the crew. That's a good way to put it. It really is. But yeah, so I'm done rambling.
No, it's perfect.
Congratulations
you
on
know what?
20 years, man.
We're people. We've run up to the top of the hour, and we try not to go too far over. We do like to keep it at, the longer we go, the less other people are going to check this out later. And we didn't advertise Johnny coming on here because we wanted to surprise the crew. Everyone else is going to show up tomorrow because that's what happens when you play with my big brother. But Johnny, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. I really can't. Mark, thank you for working your magic. Johnny, I did see your lovely lady in the comment section. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the contract I'd sent over that you actually signed, but in that there's a clause per minute over the hour. Can take care of
I
that.
believe you were a few minutes late, so we're calling it good. Take
Thank
it
you,
up with
guys.
Linda.
Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, Linda will call you. All right, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. This was the Lifeboat. People, between now and the next time I see you, which should be about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, you know what I want you to do? Get out there and try to save somebody. God bless.